Hello, this is Brian Blanco, and I'll be talking about our progress for our art making progress and general research so far. First of all, why did we do animation? Honestly, I just wanted to do it. And genre too. He liked doing animation as well. That's why we're having a very, very hard time right now. Especially because a lot of things are planned without our knowledge. Mostly because of our families. First off, probably the most challenging part of our research. Well, for my part was on the script writing, and as a experienced writer, I've written a lot of things. It was kind of easy for me. The only thing I could say that was truly challenging to me was waiting on the data collection and analysis just so I could write the final part of our story, because we needed the results so we could, make an ending. But in my mind, my writer brain just wanted to just make the story and ending.
I'd say the main problems of working in animation is time management and just perseverance. Because firstly, you need a lot of time for like concentration, and there's often like a lot of things that you have to juggle when doing animation, like whether your battery is like on point, where if you don't have enough battery, you have to wait, and then your drive to keep on going kind of gets pulled off a little bit. And then when it comes to perseverance, it's basically if you can still keep going without any energy. Essentially, even though you're already tired, or maybe you're trying to finish this, but you just don't have like the will to keep going. That's the kind of thing that I'm looking for. Those are the two main struggles. Other struggles would probably be like technical struggles, like if I have the necessary equipment or software to kind of fix this, or maybe even just other stuff like trying to figure out like how to piece parts of the animation together. Maybe it's because of the software not being able to handle a full project, or even just like some things not syncing well together, or something's lagging. Those are usually the most probable things that happen while doing animation, which include both the technical and the mental note whenever it comes to those two types of things.
The first, the first main scene for our animation would be the exterior of a classroom, window, school, whatever you call it. The exterior of a window, and it's slowly zooming in. Next scene would be an inside shot of said classroom with a focus point on our main character, Aldrich, verily drawing on his desk and alone, essentially. Third scene would be just a more just the establishing shot of what he's drawing on his desk and how focused he is in what he's doing. Next part would be the next scene would be, how could I say this? It's actually just a jump scare. Eldrick getting jump scared by his best friend, Alice, and they share a few things before the next scene where Alice goes out of the classroom to go eat or somewhere, while Eldrick continues stays in the classroom and stays alone. Next scene would further emphasize that by him putting on his headphones to cover the noise of the classroom. But as he puts on the headphones, a sudden jump and a new scene happens where he's on his desk, on his computer, playing games, being very loud, being very talkative. A clear distinction to between his school self and his at-home self. Then the next scene, we see his father come in, coming through the door, shouting about something, but we couldn't. Aldrich can't hear it yet because of how loud the sounds of his games are and how loud his friends are talking over his dad. Which brings us to our last scene where Aldrich removes his headphones and finally listens to his dad and his dad says that there's no more school and it's cancelled because the story will be set at the start of the pandemic, March 13, 2020. To talk more about our research paper, the remaining revisions we would need to do would probably be in our visual studies, which we just recently added, where we will be looking through different Japanese media about the hikikomori, their traits, their habits, everything, actually. Because the visual study will be compared to the data we collected and analyzed from our interviews. And that's mostly it from what we need to do, because we have finished our interviews and our data analysis. So the only thing left for us to do is the visual studies, where we just have to read, watch more stuff. As for our timetable, the first thing would be the finishing and finalization of our script, and then moving on to our storyboard. After that, John Rod would be spending most of the week and next week animating the trailer. And then after that, we would be doing the voice acting for the trailer, followed by the editing until our desired deadline of the last week of April. In the end, our paper and our art making progress would probably be at around 60% done. Because yes, we've done our character designs, our storyboarding, most of the script done, and our paper almost done. We can't say that for sure because we're gonna be doing research congress, which is very scary, not gonna lie. But we do have to do it because I want to, and John wants to as well. Now, the only thing I could probably say would be, please watch our animated short film when we do finish it. And I mean, we will finish it because we are very egotistical people and we would like to have that in our resume. Either way, hopefully you guys would enjoy our animation. Thank you and goodbye.
Good day everyone, my name is Kirk Canonizado and this is my milestone presentation regarding my research project entitled Banyuhay, Looking at Coming Out in the Eyes of Queer Filipino Youth. So in this presentation, I will be providing a comprehensive report on my whole research project from the paper up to the art output. So starting off with the current status of my research paper, firstly, let us discuss the revisions and comments that my panelists suggested from my proposal defense. One of the panelists suggested including more Filipino studies regarding the matter as it could further strengthen the paper. Additionally, they added that finding more queer theories can also help fortify the study. These are now all applied by the researcher. The paper actually only required minor revisions as there were only few comments in regards to the revisions. So moving on with the current status of the paper. In term 1, the requirement was to finish chapters 1 to 3 of the paper. And for this term, the data collection and analysis was the main focus of the paper. I'm now finished with the data collection process, and this was done via Zoom meetings. Currently, I am working on analyzing the data that I collected, specifically writing it on the research paper. The paper is currently at least 90% accomplished. Now, let us discuss the research project's artwork production. So as mentioned in the paper, the study will be visualized through photographs of drag depictions of metamorphosis. More importantly, the artwork will be merely focusing on the symbolisms and semiotics of the garments and makeup that will be exhibited by the model. The images that are being flashed on the screen right now are the initial sketches of the garments. So each sketch pertains to the 4 stages of metamorphosis. Creating these sketches were a bit of a challenge as I wanted each garment to be unique in their own way while also keeping the whole collection cohesive. The next images are the drafts for the makeup looks. So I wanted to make the makeup look as distorted and insect-like as possible, which symbolizes my way of blurring the lines of gender. I don't want it to look too feminine or too masculine, but rather somewhere between the two, implying androgyny. Lastly, the following images are the drafts for the poses and lighting for the photography aspect of the artwork. So for each phase, a different pose and way of lighting is employed in order to symbolize the findings behind it. So with the complexity of my whole research project, it is needless to say that I encountered some challenges. So the biggest challenge that I encountered with employing Banyuhay was in the data collection process. I was aiming to interview at least 6 participants in the 15 to 19 age demographic. However, I was only able to interview 4, all of which are in the age bracket of 17 to 19 years old, which means that I am missing almost half of my demographic. It is important to note that my study tackles a sensitive topic, and I understand why some people are not willing to partake in the study. So due to this, I made sure that I was able to conduct very fruitful interviews with the very small selection of participants I have. By conducting semi-structured interviews, I was able to bring up follow-up questions that further deepened the discussion between the interviewees and I. This helped me a lot, especially in analyzing and finding themes in the data. Let us now move on to the timetable of Banyuhay. The timetable will be represented through this Gantt chart. So this is to show the progress of each task, and this can help set my priorities for this project. Let us first take a look at the accomplished task as of today, which includes chapters 1 to 3 of the paper and the conceptualization of the artwork. Now, let us discuss the upcoming tasks. So my first priority is to finish the data analysis part of my paper by next week. Then, the pre-production phase of Banyuhay will start after finishing the paper. I purposely aim to start with this phase on the start of the term break, as this process will be very hefty and time-consuming. Being on break will help me focus on merely producing the artwork, as I won't have any other academic responsibilities. The scouting and purchasing of materials will be done in the first week of the break. Following this will be the drafting of the patterns for the garments. Shortly after this, the creation of the base garments for each phase will be executed. Following this will be the detailing of the garments. It is important to note that during the duration of creating the garments, Fittings and alterations will be done if necessary. After finishing the garments, I will then start with setting up the set for the shoot. I'm estimating this phase to be done in the span of 3 to 4 weeks. Then, the shoot will be done after the pre-production phase. This part will include makeup and hairstyling, modeling, and the actual photo shoot. I am aiming to execute this phase in the span of 5 days. After the shoot comes the post-production phase. So this includes the selection of the photos, editing such as enhancements, typography, and layouting. So I am aiming to employ this phase at the start of the third term so that I could ask for creative supervision from my research advisor. Before putting this presentation to a close, I would like to acknowledge my accomplishment of presenting in the 16th DLSU Arts Congress. While the days leading up to it were very stressful and nerve-wracking, presenting my paper in the Congress was one of my proudest achievements in my academic career. Now that we have come to the end of my presentation, I would like to thank everyone, especially my research advisor for assisting me throughout this research journey, and to my interviewees for contributing to this paper. Once again, my name is Kirk Canonizado, and thank you to listening to my presentation.
Good day. My name is Denise Angeline Binadala of ADT 12A in the DLSU Laguna campus. I'm the artist and researcher behind Define Feminine, I'm Feminine, a comparative analysis of female character designs created through the male and female gaze. This is my milestone video presentation tackling the revision status, manuscript progress, artwork production, challenges encountered, and proposed timetable of my research as we move forward into the third and final term. To begin, I'll be starting with my revision status. 72% of revisions based on the comments, suggestions, and recommendations of my panelists and research mentor have been completed, with 8 finished and 3 in progress. 2 of the resolved comments were straightforward changes in wording in my manuscript, where the resolution was to follow their instructed rephrasing. In my manuscript, I describe my output as a way to view true female representation. It's near impossible to really describe what true female representation is, and this phrasing puts female representation into this box of characteristics that they have to follow, which ironically is what my output is attempting to undo. This phrase was instead reworded into female representation with a higher degree of authenticity, as it accurately describes what my output intends to achieve. Similar rewordings were also made to other portions of the paper. 3 more of these resolved comments suggested that I clarify certain parts of my paper to be easier for consistency regarding the details of my manuscript and proposed artwork. This includes clarifying at an earlier portion of the paper what specific media I am gathering my data from, clarifying that I will be using a digital mockup in my scope and limitations, and clarifying how exactly my findings will be translated into an artwork. This information wasn't necessarily missing, it was available in later portions of the paper, when it should have been stated earlier on. All of this information was added to parts of the problematique, objectives, scope and limitations according to the panelists' advice. Another resolved comment included the elaboration of how the chosen designs I am analyzing fit under the male and female gaze. This was resolved by adding further explanation to the scope and limitations of the research. Similarly, another comment suggested the elaboration of the artwork's target audience. Because this is a mural design, the target audience is incredibly important to take into consideration when designing, and this revision was made to the scope and limitations and the details of the art project. The final resolved suggestion for the artwork was to create a real-world mural, instead of the proposed digital mock-up design. Unfortunately, after attempting to find the location, materials, and the needed help to create such a project, I had to admit that it would not be possible in my current situation, and I will be retaining the digital mural mockup. As for the revisions in progress, 2 of these include adding additional research articles and papers, specifically more Filipino-based literature, and literature that uses content analysis as its data analysis method. Although I have gathered a few sources for this, I chose to forego adding these revisions to my manuscript at the moment, as I believe the sources can be improved and I want to take more time to search for more recent and relevant literature. Finally, the last revision I plan to make in my manuscript is to add the target location of my mural. I decided to wait until I have completed more of my mural mock-up designs before adding a target location, even if tentative. This is because murals as an art form do interact with their surroundings. Taking into consideration what my mural design would look like before deciding where it will be placed would be beneficial to its visual appeal and meaning. With my paper and output, I aim to enter the 5th DLSU Senior High School Research Congress. Other than aiming to get into my With my paper and output, I aim to enter the 5th DLSU Senior High School Research Congress. Other than aiming to get my work into the Research Congress since I was in grade 11, I chose to continue to aim for it because I believe my paper fits its call for transformative research that aims to renegotiate norms, as it directly tackles the norms forced upon women through the male gaze in character designs by introducing the female gaze and how it can empower women. On that note, following the release of the Research Congress template, I have completed both the introduction and the process portion of the manuscript, save for the remaining additional research and target location in the revisions, which will be added to the process portion. More specifically, this will fall under the methodology and related artworks that I will be showing in my paper. This means that overall, the status of my paper is for the most part completed, save for the remaining revisions and the art production. I have since completed my data collection. Since it is content analysis, I did not require the extensive search for consenting respondents or participants. Regarding my preliminary findings, however, my analysis found 10 general elements in character design that change depending on whether the character is created under the male or female gaze. These include: first, sexualization; 2, queer themes; 3, younger representation; 4, male relationship independence; 5, clothing freedom; 6, character depth; 7, body type diversity; 8, masculinity; 9, femininity; and 10, female relationships. In line with these findings, I began my artwork production, using each element as a theme for one mural design, following my plan of creating 10 mural designs. As of the moment, 50% of the production has been finished, and shown on the screen are 5 of my 10 proposed murals. Choosing to go solo and choosing a data collection method that did not require any participants removed a lot of the common challenges seen by my colleagues. A major challenge or roadblock in my research, though, was the aforementioned proposed target location of the mural mock-up. There are really a lot of factors that go into choosing where a mural will be painted specifically, because that can affect its meaning and its visuals. Although I already began listing potential places for a target location, as mentioned, I'm choosing to forgo finalizing it. I'm choosing to wait until I have a more completed or more finished sense of all of my artworks so I can gather more insight on what size, what demographic, and other factors that I want from this location so that it best complements my work. More commonly, though, to other researchers, another major challenge I have dealt with both this term and last term is the scheduling of my progress. Academic workload as both a grade 12 student and an active organization officer and member makes the finding of time to work on my paper and art output difficult, especially when burnout comes along. As usual, proper time management and rest is my best friend in fighting this, but so is sitting down and just telling myself to get work done, no matter how little it is, as long as it keeps the ball rolling and my ideas flowing. Finally, shown on screen is my proposed timeline for my writing and art production from this term until the next. As mentioned, I am aiming for Research Congress, which is why my timeline is adjusted to meet the Congress deadlines and the presentation days. Thank you for your time, not only for listening to my milestone presentation, but also for following and even guiding me in my research journey. May we all have a productive and successful third term.
Good day, we are Beatrice Katungal and Mary Grace Ching, and today we'll be presenting our milestone presentation of our research project entitled Angelic Demons, Exploring the Struggles of Growing Up through a Content Analysis of Hideaki Anno's Neon Genesis Evangelion. Firstly, we will discuss with you the revision status and progress report, starting with our revision matrix.
Compared to our paper made in Term 3 of Grade 11, several additions and revisions to our paper were created and further developed as we entered Term 1 and Term 2 of Grade 12 based on the comments, suggestions, and recommendations of our research advisor and mentor from our past consultations, as well as the panelists from our proposal defense. Overall, multiple minor revisions were made, but there have been some significant changes to our paper and zine compared to the previous term's progress. In Term 1, under the guidance of our research advisor, Sir Rafi Kakal, we refined parts of chapters 1 to 2 such as the research questions, methodologies, and scope and limitations. We also finalized the contents of chapter 3, and as such, we presented the paper at our proposal defense last November 22, 2022. After the presentation, the panelists made multiple comments and suggestions which were integral to the development of our paper and zine.
For this term, since there was a lot we had to tackle, we first discussed with our research advisor the comments and suggestions made by the panelists during the proposal defense. The noteworthy changes to our paper are as advised by the panelists, our research advisor, and our mentor. First change is as compared to our previous questions focusing on the series' themes, our current research questions were revised, streamlined, and more focused on content analysis. Second, the paper's theoretical framework was reduced from 6 theories and concepts to 1 leading theory. Next, as advised by our research advisor, Philippine child labor was integrated to ground the paper into Philippine realities. Next, the research gap was further refined to integrate the lack of papers discussing Evangelion's depiction of child labor. And last, in addition to the content analysis, a survey featuring 30 Filipino participants aged 14 to 17 was conducted, where we previously decided only to conduct content analysis. With these revisions to our overall research project, we were able to present at the 16th DLSU Arts Congress last February 23, 2023. We will go more in-depth about these revisions later in the presentation.
Presently, we have accomplished 100% of the data collection, which includes the content analysis and the survey, as well as the analysis of the data collected from these methods. As such, we are both creating the required amount of artworks to complete our zine entitled Angelic Demons. Currently, each artist researcher has completed 5 artworks out of 10, totaling to 10 artworks out of 20 for the zine. We believe that by next term, all of the artworks will be completed and the zine will be ready for online publication.
Next is our reason for choosing our academic journal. As we previously participated in the 16th DLSU Arts Congress, we have chosen to wait for their invitation to publish our paper in a DLSU journal. We chose this academic journal mainly because of our participation as presenters. Moreover, as a platform for innovation and creativity in various fields, we are highly interested in its dedication to this year's theme of engagement, art, memory, and history.
As for the preliminary parts of the journal article, we will first start with the presentation of the introduction, starting with the background of the research project. This paper aims to establish how Neon Genesis Evangelion embodies the struggles of adolescents as its characters metaphorically combat their inner demons through their battles with the angels. The proposed artwork is a digital zine entitled Angelic Demons. As for the research gap, although there may be studies dedicated to this field, we have discovered a need for further exploration and discussion of this topic. Additionally, we have not seen discussions portraying child labor in Evangelion. For this reason, the present study strives to fulfill this gap for its content analysis of childhood struggles. As for the revisions, we were asked by the panelists to mention the lack of papers discussing how child labor is reflected in Evangelion. With this, we eagerly did our research to prove this research gap.
As for the statement of the problem, the study aims to seek answers to the following questions. First, how does Neon Genesis Evangelion represent the character's struggles, actions, and relationships with the conflicts children face in real life through this stage of growing up? Consequently, how can this be illustrated through the use of a zine? Second, what are the themes/theories present in the anime that center around the main protagonist's struggles? What meaning is reflected in these themes? And lastly, how is psychoanalysis reflected in the character's unconscious thoughts, feelings, desires, and memories through the zine and the analysis of Neon Genesis Evangelion. As for the revisions, we were asked by the panelists to refine and streamline the research questions. With this, we reduced the questions to 3 and only included one theory, which is psychoanalysis by Sigmund Freud. As for scope and limitations, the study will focus on the original anime series Neon Genesis Evangelion and the film The End of Evangelion. Psychoanalysis will also be used as a theoretical framework for the content analysis. Netflix and other streaming platforms to watch the anime and the movie were used. Moreover, we conducted a survey through Google Forms. The study will also be conducted throughout the academic year. Lastly, the research design will not cover all points of interest within the anime, such as its other themes.
As for the medium and technique, our chosen medium and technique for the artwork is an online published zine. During the preparation phase, a mood board for the zine was created to guide us in creating the zine and illustrations. The zine's mood board included color palettes, fonts, brushes, and inspiration references. The artists also used the techniques of color theory. As for the revisions, we were advised to explore the definition of digital zines and include the mood board and color theory. Moreover, as advised by one of the panelists, we have removed semiotics. We now move on to the art concept. As the study involves a comparative analysis of the struggles between Evangelion's children and real-life children, certain experiences such as neglect, childhood trauma, child labor, people-pleasing, and the effect of parental bonds to relationships have been chosen as some of the many real-life situations that were discussed in the zine and the paper.
Next is the significance of the research project. This study will benefit the research field due to the need for more discussion on how Neon Genesis Evangelion reflects the struggles children experience through the series. The researchers aim to spearhead the discussions on how the series illustrates child labor, specifically in the Philippines, grounding the paper in Philippine context. Aside from this, researchers have identified 3 communities that may benefit from this research: artists, the academic community, and the viewers of Neon Genesis Evangelion. As for the revisions, we were asked to ground the paper to Philippine grounds. With this, we integrated Philippine child labor into the research paper as a basis for one of the childhood experiences. As for the literature review, we have chosen 10 papers that are relevant to the present study. These studies presented concepts and theories observed in Neon Genesis Evangelion and the End of Evangelion, with connections to the struggles real children face. The papers are as follows.
As for the methods, content analysis and a qualitative survey as data collection were used. This methodology was performed in the main series Neon Genesis Evangelion and the feature-length film The End of Evangelion. Psychoanalysis was also used to support the analysis. Moreover, the survey was conducted through Google Forms and asked a maximum of 30 participants aged 14 to 17 years old born in the Philippines. They were shown certain childhood experiences present in the anime and were asked if the anime accurately represents these experiences. We now move on to the artwork production. Here is a presentation of our art making process as well as the artworks created.
We now move on to the challenges encountered in collaborative approaches. Our main struggles in creating the paper were making it more focused due to our numerous ideas that could be implemented in the paper and the zine. Moreover, we also struggled with the word count as we had a lot to say about the topic. Another struggle we experienced was the lack of resources on the internet, such as books, papers, articles, and as such, that were needed to base our statements on the paper.
Furthermore, some research papers that could have been useful were also locked behind paywalls which we had no resources to avail of. The lack of time to create the paper and the zine was also an immense struggle due to the short time frame given and other problems we faced in our academic and personal lives. To address these problems, we employed 4 distinct approaches to avoid conflict. These are as follows. Number 1, tremendous dedication and passion towards the material and the creation of the zine. Number 2, perseverance to excel in research. Number 3, listening to the advice, suggestions, and recommendations of our research mentor, advisor, and panelists. And lastly, constant communication with each other, our research advisor, and our mentor to avoid misunderstanding and arguments.
As for division of labor, for context, we created a master list of tasks so that the division of labor was both clear and organized for the entirety of this research endeavor. We aimed always to equalize the amount of work for each individual and, as such, usually split the tasks in half. Unofficially though, Mayor Grace Ching often checks and finalizes the works more often than not.
Alternatively, Beatrice Katungal often gives ideas that further polish and define the elements of the paper such as the art concept and methodology. As we have continued to work on the paper and the zine together, we have always made sure to communicate with each other properly and let each other know if they need help with the task that they are doing. As for the timetable, we used the master list as we also included deadlines and dates for the research process. The timetable is as follows.
The plans for term 3 start with completing the remaining 10 artworks we need to complete the zine. As we have discussed new ideas for these remaining artworks, we will also start to schedule consultations with our research advisor for his insights on our ideas. Moreover, as we are already done with the data collection, analysis, and preliminary parts of our journal article, we will start to revise all aspects of the journal article to fit the standards and guidelines of our chosen academic journal. As such, we will begin all these endeavors after the term 2 break scheduled in the coming weeks.
Listed in this slide would be the references cited in our paper and in this presentation. That concludes our presentation for today. We sincerely thank each and every person here for listening, and we hope you have a great day ahead.
Good day to all of you. Welcome to our milestone presentation. Here we will be discussing our progress for the entirety of Term 2. This includes our revision matrix and progress report, artwork production, challenges encountered in our collaborative approaches, and finally our timetable for both Term 2 and Term 3. Before we get started, let me first introduce myself. I am Ana Abalon, along with my groupmates Noreen Kayanan and Elise Reyes. Let's get right into it.
After our research defense, we listed our panelists' comments about our paper. We assigned each member to a certain panelist comments to make the process more efficient.
To summarize, most of the comments revolved around adding more articles to the background of the study, refining research questions, and justifying decisions made, especially in the art-making process.
Changes we made in the background of the study include the addition of materials covering Philippine history, the colonization period influence, and even the effect that religion and social status had on internalized misogyny. This also led to us adding to the paper's critical discourse, where we added a subtopic on the history of internalized misogyny in the Philippines.
With the addition of these research articles to our paper, we were able to solidify our topic and provide stronger justifications from the start on why our research should be conducted.
Besides the background of the study, we were also advised to highlight the Philippine society and the significance of the research. As a result of this, we worked on reading articles that studied internalized misogyny in our communities. Then, we made it a goal to highlight how our paper can bring awareness to others based on the experiences our fellow Filipinos have.
As for our research questions, we were tasked with refining them and including a question that focused more on the artistic outcome of the study. With that, we refined the main question and their sub-questions, and then added another question. The fourth question was on how our storybook could showcase and illustrate the experiences of women with the issue, which is internalized misogyny.
Along with this, we also made a significant change to the research title due to the suggestions made by our panelists. It was advised that we change the title from Narratives of Internalized Misogyny to a storybook on internalized misogyny, in order to avoid any misconceptions about the research and its outcome.
In addition, the concern towards the fantasy plot and how effective it would be for those aged 8 to 11 years old led to us rewriting the story's plot. Because of this concern, we switched to a more realistic plot and made the story revolve around a more true-to-life setting, which is a school.
Along with the changes made to the story's plot, the storybook's title was changed from The Girl with the Purple Vest to Purple Loves to Dress Up, in order for the title to relate more to the plot of our newly revised story.
Lastly, justifications were added on why certain platforms or decisions were made for the art-making process. This addressed the panelists' concern of that segment being too vague at first.
Thanks to the revision matrix, we could improve our paper in an organized way. Now moving on to the status of our paper, only the data collection segment is incomplete due to us still conducting the interviews. This means that our paper is about 80% finished.
Besides this, the only changes we'll be making are towards submitting our paper to an academic journal. Therefore, changes will be made to the research paper template.
As for the chosen academic journal, our reason for choosing it is simple and direct. Our group was fortunate enough to be accepted and present our paper at the DLSU Arts Congress this year.
We presented our paper to other presenters and fellow researchers like us from different grades and strands. Aside from being accepted, we were invited to submit our paper for publication in a DLSU journal. Hence, we intend to pass our paper to this academic journal.
Our panelists recommended that we dive deeper into the background and history of clothing and misogyny in the Philippines. Hence, the researchers gathered more data and information on this subject. In the research background of the study, we found out more about the origins of misogyny in the country as well as its effects on the clothing history. Similarly, the concept of misogyny was also established. When it comes to one sex and gender, women's clothing were designed in accordance to how the opposite sex would see them. They also considered religion in women's clothing. With that being said, we also added more research questions to narrow down the scope and focus on our study.
We initially had 3 research questions in total, but we added one that focused on our creative output. The question added was, how can this storybook illustrate, narrate, and showcase women's experiences with internalized misogyny? Along with the research questions, we also came up with interview questions aligned with what our research is supposed to answer. The interview questions are shown on the screen.
For our methodology, aside from the interviews, we also took a trip to the LC2 library to look for references and inspirations for our storybook. We managed to find storybooks fitting to our target audience, so we took note of the possible art styles and what language to use. We are still currently in the process of interviewing.
Aside from our recently used theory, which is the objectification theory proposed by Fredrickson and Roberts, we also applied Simone de Beauvoir's second sex theory. This theory addresses how sexual differences affected the perception of women. The second sex theory emphasizes on the dominance of men and the inferiority of women compared to them.
For our artwork production, as our group is a collaboration of VMA and creative writing students, we were required to pass 50% of the art production, which equates to 10 artworks, 5 for each VMA student, and 2-page storygraph for creative writing.
And so presented here is myself working on my 2-page story draft. Kindly do note that it is still a work in progress as we are still waiting for the interviewers' responses.
Next, we have our 10 artworks and our process for doing these. Anna was in charge of doing the cover and sketching 3 scenes, while I was tasked to do 3 backgrounds and 2 scenes. Here's the cover, which counts as 2 artworks already as it is a spread. The next is the backgrounds, which is the school gate, the classroom, and the bedroom. Lastly are the sketches of some scenes in this storybook.
Our research journey was smooth sailing since all group members did their part and communicated well with our advisor.
However, upon revising this paper, we found a lack of background material for our topic. The background of the study dives deeper into the Philippines pre-colonial era. Unfortunately, limited resources and references were available on this topic. The researchers only managed to obtain data as to the Philippine clothing history during the pre-colonial in the Visayas area and little to zero in Luzon.
Additionally, we're still gathering data since we had trouble with our interviewees. For our research, we need a maximum of 10 people to interview, and we did gather that many interviewees, but the problem was the scheduling and the actual interview with them. Upon emailing, some of the interviewees had conflicting schedules and some did not follow up at all. So we decided to give them the option for a written interview instead since most weren't up for a Zoom meeting or they were unavailable.
This then affects our artwork production since our story's flow depends on the answers of our interviewees. We had to hold off on creating artwork and the story itself. Additionally, we were also overwhelmed to hear that 80% of our artwork should be done by then. Thankfully, it was reduced by 50%, which made it easier for us to comply.
To address our problems, we communicated with one another and always consulted with our research advisor, Ms. Rain, for insights we might have missed. Hearing Ms. Rain's advice and suggestions help us with the progress for this term.
We also tried to look for different solutions to the problem rather than looking at it one-sidedly. Having multiple approaches to solve the problem is better than having none. For the division of tasks, we have Noreen for the background and the statement of the problem. I was in charge for the medium and technique and the statement of the problem. And I was in charge for the medium and the significance of the study, while Elise was assigned to do the scope and the limitations as well as the other methodologies. Everyone worked on the critical discourse and the definition of terms.
If there was a need for revisions, the person assigned should work on their part. Before proceeding with our term 2 timetable, this is what we accomplished during the second term.
And that brings us to our schedule for the upcoming term. So we plotted our tasks and important dates to take note of for the third term. From May 8 to May 10, we are going to do data encoding. From May 11 to May 15, we are going to do data analysis. May 10 to May 15, we're gonna have our story finalization. May 8 to June 16, we're gonna have our artwork production. From May 8 to June 16, we're gonna finalize our research paper. And from May 8 to June 16, we are going to be applying for the Research Congress. We adjusted our dates so that our paper is finished by the time the application for the Research Congress is finished.
And that concludes our progress report for this term. Again, I'm Ana Avalon, along with my groupmates Noreen Kayanan and Luis Reyes. Thank you so much for listening and have a great day.
A good day to you all. I am Azel Beatriz E. Adornado from ADT 12A Laguna Campus, and I will be presenting my milestone video regarding my paper titled Zinning the Female Body. Creating the paper was challenging and the process was stressful, but at the same time, I've enjoyed the efforts I poured since it centers around a topic I was willing to talk about. For the status of my paper, here is my progress report. So based on the comments and solutions provided by my advisor, mentor, and panelists, several revisions have been made to the paper. The researcher has made sure to change terminologies and double-check the usage of adjectives to eliminate redundancy. The capitalization of the term Gen Z has also been made consistent throughout the paper, and proofreading has been done to ensure proper punctuations and avoid incomplete paragraphs. Regarding the choice of medium, stippling has been chosen to preserve the visualizations of comics, while digital comic zine has been chosen for its nostalgia appeal to the targeted audience. The researcher has also incorporated the advocacy for social issues in comic zines and looked for local artworks that share the same sentiments. To address the question of whether new respondents or the Generation Z would come up with different results, The researcher believes that the openness of Generation Z to social issues and their willingness to discuss taboo topics would lead to discourse and sharing of ideas. Furthermore, it has been suggested to ground the study on comments and perceptions of beauty through pictures chosen from Instagram to show to interviewees. The researcher has also addressed the concern that the three sequence panels may not be enough and stated that it depends on the interviewee's answers. The current general status of the paper is that it is 95% finished, and the researcher is in the process of double-checking the paper for any grammatical errors. The data collection process has been completed, and the researcher was able to gather the necessary answers through interviews to create the comic scene. The researcher has made sure to incorporate the interviewee's answers into the comic scene, which helped answer the research question and strengthen the foundation of the paper. And based on the preliminary results, the current status of the paper suggests that there is a direct relationship between the affective disposition regarding Gen Z's females' attitude, perception, and self-confidence on female bodies on Instagram. The findings indicate that the presentation of female bodies on Instagram affects these variables of individuals on their own bodies. These results shed light on the influence of social media platforms on body image perception and can have significant implications for Gen Z's females' well-being. It is important to note that these findings are preliminary, and further analysis may be required to confirm the results. Nonetheless, this initial observation provides a foundation for further exploration and a more comprehensive understanding of the impact of social media on body image perception among Gen Z females. Challenges encountered. One of the most common challenges I face while writing the paper is writer's block. So writer's block is wherein the writer finds it difficult to start or continue writing due to a lack of idea, motivation, or direction. Other challenges I faced were organizing and structuring the paper, integrating research findings, and ensuring that the paper is coherent and flows well. Additionally, time management can also be a challenge, particularly when trying to balance multiple responsibilities while also completing the study. Another challenge may be dealing with feedback or criticism from mentors, as this can be difficult to accept and implement on the paper. To address these challenges, I set a schedule and break down the writing process into manageable tasks, seeking feedback and support from peers or mentors, and also learning how to take breaks to recharge. Additionally, seeking inspiration and brainstorming ideas through activities such as mind mapping or free writing helped me overcome this challenge. There were challenges in terms of organizing the paper and presenting the data and findings in a clear and concise manner through the rough draft of the artwork. I was able to overcome this through searching for pegs and inspirations on sites like Pinterest, and I also consulted with my mentor for feedback and guidance on how to effectively present the message through my drawing. And I'm happy to say that I'm currently about 60 to 70% finished with the project. While there are still a few more panels to add and some coloring work to do, the end is certainly in sight. I've been pouring a lot of time and energy into this piece, and I'm thrilled with how it's coming along so far. And I can't wait to share the final product once it's completed. My Gantt chart for Term 3 demonstrates a well-planned approach in completing my project. I have set a deadline for almost finishing my work by May, after which I will dedicate my time to sketching additional panels and using the stippling technique on my sketches. My plan also includes allocating June to add color to my zine. It is ideal that by June my work is already finished, and from July to August to polish my work. It is also important to me that I have included breaks in my schedule to avoid burnout. By following this plan, I will be able to manage my time effectively and produce high-quality work without compromising my well-being.
Hello, I am Patricia Liana S. Brion from DLSU-IS's Arts and Design strand, and I am here today to present my milestone video for my practical research paper. Regarding revisions, the paper was refocused toward a more specific direction. Instead of comparing children's books and trying to create a better one, the book the artist will create will be based on elements seen in existing books and on the preferences of fellow ADT students. More details were added to the other parts of the paper. more Philippine context was added to the background of the study by giving examples of Filipino children's book authors. More details on the method of production of the artwork were added, and the questions of the statement of the problem were refocused to be more specific and clear. Wordings and assumptions were revised to sound less presumptuous. The data collection is almost at its final stages as the 30 respondent count was reached, leaving the results less oversaturated and giving the answers more variety. The researcher is yet to content analyze other children's books on the same topic. About 60% of the artwork was created, as the other aspects of it are reliant on the survey and content analysis results. Completed was the narrative of the story, sample sketches, and character designs. The color palette, layout, and typography will be decided on during the latter parts of the artwork production. The researcher chose the Research Congress Journal format as it had the research team in line with the paper. The paper aligns with the Women, Children, Family, and the Elderly research team as it focuses on the development of emotions in the early childhood stage. I would say that the biggest challenge the study faced would be the conciseness of the direction of the study. The paper was headed toward no clear goal at first, making the study very confusing for the progression of the research. With the help of my research advisor, Sir Tim, I was able to refocus my statement of the problem and create a clear direction for my paper. In terms of data collection, there were no major challenges faced. The only change was the need to create and distribute a survey for additional information, which did not hinder the study's progress or the researcher. Another challenge the researcher faced was time management, along with managing to work on the paper as it was an individual feat and tasks could not be delegated to different people. Also, it was hard to find the motivation to work on the paper as there were times the study's direction got confusing and there were other academic activities I had to attend to. This was overcome with the continuous support of my advisor and my classmates who were also undergoing the course. The progression and creation of the development of the paper is as goes. The term started with working on the meeting notes from January 27 until February 27, working on the paper's revisions from February 23 until March 10. Sample sketches and the storyline were created and drafted on February 8 until February 10. The survey was created from February 27 until March 6. This included the formulation of questions and having them checked and validated by the research advisor, which was then approved for dissemination on March 6 and continued for the duration of the week, which ended on March 13. Then, the researcher was tasked to format the paper following the guidelines of a journal article. This ensued from March 22 until April 12. To mark the end of the term, a milestone video was one of the requirements needed, so preparation and creation of this were from April 3 until April 4. The tentative timeline for the third term is as follows. From May 10 until May 13, data collection will continue through content analysis. Then, data encoding and analysis will ensue from May 13 until May 20. Simultaneously, continuous revision and finalization of the paper and the artwork will be from May 5 until June 16. These dates are all tentative, as progress can be completed earlier or later depending on the circumstance. This has been the progress so far on my research for Term 2 of academic year 2022 to 2023. I would like to thank those who have been in continuous support of me during the revision process this term. Thank you for listening.
This is a video to provide an update on the progress of our thesis. As you know, our thesis topic is about leveling up the playing field, overcoming family stress issues through the exploration of gamification. And we have been working on this since the first term. I am pleased to report that we have made significant progress since our last update. Specifically, we have accomplished and completed the following. We have conducted a thorough literature review of multiple articles related to our thesis topic. We also developed a research question and hypothesis that will guide our investigation. We have also analyzed data which allowed us to identify certain things and findings, and also drafted the first three chapters, which includes the introduction, literature review, and mythology section. So moving forward, we plan to revise, refine, and finalize our draft based on the feedback from our advisor and peers. We are also to finalize our final product, which is the application that we are currently drafting. For our milestone, the first milestone that we had was reviewing of the literature topic and reviewed multiple articles that identified several gaps in our research that we plan to address in our report. The second milestone that we had was writing a literature review on the topic as we reviewed multiple articles that identified several gaps in our research that we also plan to address in our report. For the third, we have researching about related articles that helped us refine our understanding to also help us identify additional questions for future research. The fourth milestone was creating an outline of our topic area with key points from literature reviews, identifying as well as key terms used throughout the document and definitions. This document will help guide us through phases of writing a thesis paper, helping us stay focused on what needs to be done at any given time without getting distracted by details or moving too slowly towards completion before we are ready to move forwards with other tasks. The summary of our progress is we were able to complete the outline of our thesis. This includes developing an analytical framework for evaluating the strengths and weaknesses of our mobile application. We also conducted some preliminary research in order to assess how well this application are meeting the user's needs and preferences. We then began developing an analysis plan for testing and evaluating mobile application for people who wants to organize their finances. In addition to conducting fieldwork, we also conducted some research online in order to gather more data about what are needed for our application. Our timetable includes meeting with advisor, paper revisions, making of this milestone video, finalizing application designs, and drafting certain things. We have already started drafting our application design with the use of Figma. And that is it for our milestone.
So, hello everyone. My name is Christopher Rufus from the group of Riley Domingo and Lago, and today I will be discussing our prototype app today. So, our prototype app is a financial tracker that helps user to track their financial of how much they spent, and the app also shows like what items are for sale, stuff and like that. So first, let's look on our let's look first onto the first time that the user opens the app. So they will be greeted. So our app name is Cash Card, and this our logo. They will be greeted with the loading screen with loading. We decided for a design to be very simple, not too complicated or that or anything. After the app is done loading, they'll be greeted by this another by a welcome page which says welcome to CashGuard with the login and a sign up option, which is uh pretty common in apps with account creation such as Gmail, Yahoo. This could also be related to games, Steam, Battle.net, etc. etc. If the user were to pick login, they'll be redirected to this page, which will be um, recording their email address and the password that they set for it. So, and some features on the bottom. So if for some reason you were to click the login page, but you don't have an account, so you can click sign up, which will redirect you to account creation. Will create your account. Will get you just have to give some email, your email and password, and create some password. If you forget your password, so this will redirect you to a another to another page that will be asking for your email that is currently connected to your account, and will send a PIN or a code or verification number, etc. And of course, remember me, one of the basics. If you don't want to keep typing and typing your password every time you want to log in, we got features. So if the after the user has successfully typed their email address, password, and logged in, they'll be greeted with this. So I'll explain what do we have right now in this area right here. So at the top right corner, yes, you'll have your profile. At the top left and the bottom middle, you have your menus tab, and in the middle you got your daily spendage. This helps track of how much you spend within the week. So let's say within Monday you spent like 1,000 pesos. Tuesday, let's say it's 550. Wednesday, let's say it's 300. Tuesday, 1,000 again, and etc. 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 This also shows your total balance or how much money do you have left. For the other features that the app will provide, that will be on Riley Domingo. So yes.
Onto the following three pages, we have for our app, namely the shopping category, the calendar, and the rewards page. So let's start firstly, the shopping category. Once the user taps on the shop items for sale button on the main menu section, this page will appear, which contains categories like fashion, beauty and health, home, and so on. And they can shop for items they want to buy and also check if there are also items on sale. And there is also the calendar page. It features the calendar and dates that are highlighted that tells the user if there is any ongoing sale, just as shown here, for example, for the game God of War, which has a 20% sale on October 10 and a 70% off on all items for H&M on October 14 to 15. And lastly, the reward screen. And this is where the gamification comes in. We decided to incorporate gamification into our app to make to make the app more engaging and interesting, as gamification refers to the use of gaming principles such as rewards and points into an application to enhance the user experience. And so, after the user has met a certain milestone, for example, when they level up, they will be greeted with the reward screen, which will show the user the rewards they got after reaching a milestone, such as a new color scheme and a new title for their profile. They may also decide if they want to equip such rewards, or they may also choose to go back to the main menu page. And that is all for our app.
Hello, my name is Clea Margaret Enchausti Buendia from ADT 12 IHL, and I am here to present to you the progress that I have done in the duration of Term 2 for my research, A Fearless Artist, Stigma on Art Students' Career Choices with the Use of Erickson's Psychosocial Development Theory. To start off, arts and design is one of my greatest passions in life, and yet the industry that surrounds it always gets the short end of the stick, unlike those in medical or business fields. This study aims to know what stereotypes art students encounter in De La Salle University Integrated School, senior high specifically, and the creative community in general. This research aims to provide information on whether or not these certain stereotypes actually affect the students' choices in their future careers. Throughout the duration of Term 2, I worked on and completed almost 60 to 70% of the entire research. So far, I have garnered about 93% of the needed respondents for the survey that I conducted, which are already in the works for the content analysis and quantification. I have also started working on my final artwork, which is a digital zine filled with some of my artworks and the responses from the survey itself, which is almost halfway done. The manuscript for the research only needs a little bit of editing before it is finished, and the added quantified data, and then it would be ready to go. My ultimate challenge, which I think every artist struggles with, is dealing with the art block that comes with creating the final output. I often think of myself as quite creative, always having new ideas, but in the duration of creating my digital zine, I struggle to keep up with making new artworks almost every day. But overall, the project is doing well. The research findings are, I think, going smoothly, and the process is going smoothly as well. And although it does have its ups and downs, I am able to finish my task well and complete certain aspects of the research little by little. I hope to completely finish the paper and provide the message that I want to spread while creating it as well. Once again, my name is Kaya Margaret Enchasti Buendia from ADT 12 IHL, and this is my research progress on my research, A Fearless Artist, Stigma on Art Students' Career Choices with the use of Erik Erikson's psychosocial development theory. That is all.
Good day everyone, we are Cassandra Grace Margarejo and Elgeline Kyle Lim presenting our milestone progress report about our study entitled Through the Lens of a Woman Redefining the Image of Femininity Through Cosmetic Advertisements, a photo collection.
A quick background about our study. The concept was taken from challenging feminism's view on femininity and empowerment, especially for traditional women, as we want to show that they are also empowered by their own choices, thus creating our artwork the photo collection that contains these cosmetic advertisements that we made.
As for the paper revision status, we then revised the panelists' comments and suggestions on the paper itself.
Our panelists in our research defense also gave us insightful comments on how to improve our study. Our first panelist told us to include more citations for vague statements, specify the research questions more, the disjunction of survey material used as a source to the study, including how the data collection method will satisfy the final artwork, and including a positionality to the artist's worldview. Our second panelist told us to rethink and clarify the research title, redo color palettes and find more accurate mood boards, and clarify the waves of feminism in the background of the study.
We did a lot of brainstorming with our advisor and idealized a common ground between our ideas. One significant and major change that we made was scoping the cosmetic area into random 6 only. Once the final paper is revised, we plan to pass our journal in the Sinaya 2023.
So for our artwork, we have accomplished about 50%, which contains the photos of realistic portrayals and the second wave of feminism. Our current work in progress is the photo manipulation of the studio pictures and to photograph the other models for realistic portrayals. As for the pending works that we have to accomplish are to photograph the first and the other third waves of feminism. Here are some of the artworks that we will put into our photo collection album.
The problems or unexpected things that have occurred during your progress was finding respondents to answer pre-survey questions. We think that this is because our study requires a pre-survey respondent to also be a post-survey respondent. This can be quite a responsibility to the people answering our survey. We are still thoroughly working on this aspect and had the solution of giving out prizes to 3 of our respondents to gain more attention. Our project is going as planned, but with a little delay in the data gathering area. Nonetheless, we are on time with the artwork production.
Now I will be presenting the timetable and our plans for the next term. We plan to finish the whole artwork in May, while still pressing on for respondents to be able to finish the data gathering and data analysis. We'll also have a shoot on the 10th for our first wave models and dedicate the 11th and 12th for choosing the best cuts. Same goes for the 17th, which will be for our third wave models. We will also allot the 18th and 19th for the best cuts and post-processing. The 22nd to 26th will be left allotted for the photo manipulation and finalization of the post-processing along with laying out the photos, while the 29th to the 31st will be scheduled for contacting manufacturers of the physical photo book copy.
That will be all for our milestone presentation, and we hope that you look forward to our work.
Hello, I'm Layla Silva of ADT12P, and I will be reporting on my progress regarding my study entitled The Internet Ideology, the Perceived Effects of Parasocial Relationships Among Selected DLSU Senior High School Students in the Digital Age. To give an overview of the study, the interactive nature of social media platforms and digital media have amplified the different effects of parasocial relationships to a higher degree. With that, more awareness regarding the various effects of parasocial relationships, both positive and negative, should be explored. This research aims to do so by creating a zine that showcases these effects. which are based on a survey conducted to measure the perceived effects of parasocial relationships according to DLSU senior high school students.
As of now, the thumbnail and color sketches for all the illustrations as well as the cover are complete. Completing this stage before the initial sketching allows easy revisions and freedom to explore, as this stage is meant to be very rough. In this stage, one is meant to conceptualize the artwork and play with different layouts and color schemes. This stage has helped me establish the overall look of each illustration, along with the placement of different elements within them. Additionally, the color sketches also allow me to utilize the different proposed color schemes and experiment with the mood and atmosphere each color scheme brings. Because there are multiple color schemes, I've decided to spread them equally between the different illustrations, matching them with the intended theme and mood of each illustration.
Since the first stage of thumbnail and color sketches have finished, I've been starting with sketching all of the illustrations. Similar to the thumbnail sketches, the purpose of the first sketch is to simply establish the composition and layout of the different elements of the illustration onto the canvas.
On screen is the first sketch for one of the illustrations. After an initial run-through of the different illustration sketches, I will be proceeding with a more refined sketch that thoroughly showcases the important details that will be needed for me to complete the line art. Although the previous sketches are all done together so that all the illustrations will have the same progress, all of the line art, coloring, and shading will be done individually in order for me to retain focus on completing one illustration at a time.
However, the process was not without unexpected circumstances. For example, the data gathering and data processing took more time than initially planned, which has left me with less time to complete the illustrations. Still, I intend to finish the illustrations while keeping in mind the time constraints.
More on my data gathering, I've completed my data gathering and filtered out some responses during the analysis stage in accordance with the comments I received on having a criteria for respondents from my proposal defense. After applying the revisions to my paper, I plan to submit my paper to the Sinaya Journal. Through publishing papers made by senior high school students, the journal encourages young researchers to stay inquisitive towards the world around them. With that being said, the current pending work includes conducting the initial and refined sketches of each illustration. Once the initial and refined sketch for each illustration is finished, line art will be promptly started. Here on the screen are some clips of my progress, specifically the process of me coming up with different ideas for the illustrations, selecting appropriate color schemes for each, and laying out the colors to be used. I started by including my visual inspirations on the canvas to guide me in creating these sketches and the different color schemes to dictate the mood of each of these. Off screen, I have a copy of my survey results so that as I draw the illustrations, their subject matter will be closely related to the results. These are inspired by the given visual pegs on the top right. I then label the illustrations based on the subject matter they are portraying to ensure that I have covered all the effects mentioned in the conducted survey. I made sure to include both the positive and negative effects in the illustrations, and also took into consideration some of the essay part answers of the respondents. I also included a quick style exploration, as these styles will be the most prominent ones shown in the zine. After enlarging all the illustrations, I begin to group them off by the same color palette and enlarge those further. Then I begin to add color to each, going back and forth between the illustrations to keep ideas flowing. Through starting the color work early, I am able to add additional details I may have overlooked when creating the thumbnail sketch. In a way, including the process of color sketching in my work has helped define my initial sketches and add details that would not have been included otherwise. After I'm finished with the set of illustrations, I move on to the next until I've completed all of the color sketches. Finally, I start to work on the color sketch of the cover. I simplify it first in order for me to be able to focus on the colors, then enlarge the simplified sketch. For the cover, I wanted to incorporate all the previous color schemes I used for the other illustrations. I did this by assigning color schemes to the different parts of the cover and playing around with them to make the whole drawing look more cohesive. Once I figured out the colors for the cover, I decided to write the title on top of the cover. Lastly, I placed an overlay on the cover to make all the colors mesh together.
Overall, the project is moving forward, and the vision I currently have for the zine has been developing into something more concrete. I hope that in the coming weeks and months, this project will come into fruition and fulfill the initial goal of the research.
Before I end, I would like to show my current plans for the upcoming term through this calendar. Thank you for listening.